All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume Talking Buffalo. I appreciate you guys very, very much. Big shout out to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just on the way from Highmark Stadium. And, of course, Imperial Pizza with two locations, 1655 Main Street, not far from Canisius College, and the one in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road. The best lunch special, by the way, anywhere in town. All right, if you happen to be watching this on the video side, we're live here on a Monday night, recording this with my buddy over at WGR 550, Joe DiBiase, man. What's going on, dude? How you doing?
What's up? What's up, Pat? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We're going to, I know you also have Locked On Sabres, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but I'm going to spare you the Sabres talk today, and I'm going to spare everybody who's listening the Sabres talk today. We're going to focus primarily here on the Buffalo Bills. Before we kind of get rolling, though, I got to let people know this. So, by the way, it's been you and I have been around each other. We've seen each other a lot over the last couple of years.
Training camp. Saw you at training camp a couple weeks ago.
In fact, we were standing next to each other. You were on the other side, right near the rail, when Max Saracen got hurt. And I remember right away, word was starting to get around that it was not a nothing injury. I mean, obviously, we didn't know the extent of it. But, yeah, you and I were talking when word started to buzz around St. John Fisher real quick that, this is something that's pretty significant going on with Max.
Because it had happened on the other field. So I didn't know that it had happened. We were just standing there watching practice. I walked away for a minute, and I think Carl Jones maybe somebody grabbed me or just said it to me offhand. And then, when I went back over, like you that was like 5-10 minutes later, and I don't even think you had heard it yet. Or most people, I don't think anybody standing there watching practice had heard it yet.
Yeah, it was just, it was wild. By the way, I got to pull this up in the live chat. AJ Osipolsky, a man from over at Trainwreck Sports, wants to know. So if you're listening to this show on Tuesday, go check out the video to see what AJ's talking about, because he wants to know where the hat is from, Joe, and he says he needs it.
Yeah, this hat, this hat was on, there's a website that I buy a lot of my hats from that this was on, and it's sold out, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. And like a year later, I was at the New Era store downtown, and it was just sitting there on the rack. So I bought it right then and there. This is like the kind of the not Marv Levy. It's before Marv Levy. More like the Chuck Knox
era. Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck Knox wore this exact hat, but I think it was blue instead of white. So it's a sharp one.
Dope,
they might still have it down there.
So we've seen, like I said, we've seen each other around quite a bit at a few events, but this is actually the first time I've had you on the show since, man, it's been almost 2.5 years.
Couple of years, right?
Yeah, you met up with me at Imperial Pizza, and we had some wings, and that was you were just getting into your role, kind of, anyway. Settling in. It wasn't like you weren't the official full-time morning person, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, with Jeremy at that time.
Yeah,
when I joined.
I think that's right. I don't remember if Howard had just retired, or maybe we were doing for like a little while there. Howard would do a couple days, and then I would do a couple days. So I don't remember where we were in the timeline there. But yeah, I'm all settled in now. So
let me go through a fun fact. By the way, I'll drop this for everybody out there. You and I don't know each other that well. We just kind of got we're getting to know each other over the past few years. But for people who don't know this, I've tweeted this a year or so ago. Found out that Joe is actually cousins with me. We're related, man. We're family. I found it out at a funeral. Obviously, it's never a good time to learn things, but I found out at a funeral. I still don't know exactly how we're cousins. No. I just know that we are, man. So
I remember asking my grandma how we were, because it's on my mom's side, and I don't. Same. There was some, like, is it third cousins? Second or third cousins, something along the way. I don't remember. It's not my Italian side of my family. I know it's the other side. So.
Definitely not. But, so I guess because technically you are my cousin, that makes me more likely to defend you now going forward. Like if the Twitter trolls are feasting away at you, man, I might have to come running in and come to your side to your defense and be like, yo, that's family. That's my cousin. OP.
I'll throw you a thanks, cuz, whenever you come to my aid.
I do have, before we get into it, and we're going to talk plenty of Bills here. In fact, I'll let people know, ESPN, Mike Clay specifically, had a feature that was dropped. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but he went through every position on the field and he ranked all 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of struck me, based on the rankings, which we're going to talk about positionally here and get your thoughts on each of these today on the show, that it almost feels like the Bills are being treated like a mid-team that has a MVP quarterback. Although their overall ranking was very high. But again, when you strip away Josh Allen from these rankings, I think some people are going to be surprised to see how low, at least in some cases, the Bills are ranked on this list. I thought it was pretty interesting when I saw it. So I was looking forward to talking with you today about that. I got to ask you a quick question, though. All right, dude?
Yeah.
This weekend, I mean, I will plug it. Buffalo Wing Fest is coming. It's back at Salins Field. It was at Highmark Stadium for the last handful of years. It's back downtown this year.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've been hating on it. All right, I've been hating on it a lot. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a hater am I for hating on Buffalo? Because there's none of the places that anybody likes.
Yeah,
that are there.
I wouldn't say, I haven't taken it in a couple of years. So
Me neither.
if I were gonna rate it, I would say how much you're overreacting or how much you're a hater you are. Because if hater, I might go like a 6 or a 7. I don't think you're overreacting too much. It's right. I mean, you would know better than anybody, like the great wing spots around town. If they're not all flocking to this event, then it's not quite, maybe everything that you would hope it would be. Yeah, it's because of that, I haven't really taken it in maybe it's been 5-6 years, I think, since I've gone down there. And like every year I see the list, and nothing against these places. A lot of them I haven't tried, really. Some of them are out of town too, right? And I haven't tried them. So I guess that stops me from getting down there, but I don't know. Maybe I should give it a shot.
Well, I will say this. I mean, there are some out of town places that, maybe I should give the benefit of the doubt to. And there's also a couple other points to be made, but here was my mindset towards it because, yeah, look, Kelly's Corner, Elmo's, Barville, 9/11, Sunny Reds, Imperial, Climax, Gables Gate, we can go on forever and ever. None of those places, none of them are at Wing Fest. So my mindset was this, Joe. I was like, I compared it to, and this is really me, some elite level hating, I think. It's like paying some good money to go to a Buffalo Bills player autograph signing event. All right. You fork out some pretty good money. Like going to Wing Fest is $25 just to walk in the door. Right. And that's before you start buying wings that I think reasonably priced, I guess, beyond that. But still, you're paying to get all that. It's like paying good money to go to like a Bills player autograph signing. And then when you get there, you find out that it's not Josh, it's not Groot, it's not Ed. You find out that the players that are signing that day are like Brad Robbins and Ryan Vandermark and like Dane Jackson, Jason Lunt, guys like that. Nothing against them, but it's not what you expect. So I don't know. I guess that's why I've been hating. But
no, when I'm seeing chain restaurants on there, like that's the event schedule. Maybe that would be something more willing to take it in, like the eating contest. But yeah, like that kind of last year I went to a Sabre game where it was like, was it Bills night? It might have been Bills night at a Sabre game. So what do you expect? Oh, the Bills are going to bang the drum before the game. And it's exactly like you just said, like nothing against the guy, but I think it was like Alec Anderson and Tommy Doyle, I think were the two Bills that were banging the drum. Again, nothing against those guys. Tommy Doyle maybe wasn't even on the team anymore, but you weren't getting, you don't even need Josh Allen. You weren't getting James Cook and Deion Dawkins.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm looking, it's like Anchor Bar and like Buffalo Wild Wings.
That was the one I saw.
So,
there,
that's where my hate comes from. But in fairness, I got to give a shout out. Donnie Dreamboat, part of Trainwreck Sports. He had a really good look. As we get older, Joe, I think we get more open to counterpoints without taking it personal and being combative. He brought up a really good point, and he said a lot of these places already, A, are established, and B, I mean, I wouldn't know about this personally, but like cooking can be challenging in that environment compared to like what you get out of the kitchen at Barbell. I don't think you could replicate when you're at a place like Buffalo Wing Fest. So maybe these places that already are known as the best, they just they don't want to give you less than their best at this place. Plus, just let people have fun, dude. I guess let people like what they like, right? So I am being a little bit of a hater there. But anyway, hey, man, if you want to go and spend $25 and have maybe a fun experience, I'm sure there'll be other cool things there. Make sure you go check it out. It's downtown at Sandlands Field this weekend. Let me ask you this about WGR. I tried Jeremy White on the show a couple weeks ago. We did a live show at Sunny Reds with Joe Marino, and we talked about this, and I want to get your take on this as well. In regards to WGR right now, I think there's been a big shift in recent, well, I guess we call it months, you guys turning a lot more to the video side. Yeah. And, I explained it to Jeremy, and I'll tell you the same thing here on the air tonight. I watch you and Jeremy in the morning now a lot more than I listened to before you started going on YouTube. And it's not that I didn't like listening to you guys in the morning. It's that I work from home. I just don't drive in my car a lot. And most of the time, WGR would be, I'd be listening to it on the radio side anyway. It would be in my car. So I'm out in my car. But now that you guys have been doing the video side, it just feels like a lot more people are watching. I could watch it at my desk. I could put it, open up another window. I could leave it on and listen as background noise, whatever I want to. But just talk about being on YouTube right now at WGR. Yeah. You guys have really put a lot of marketing time, effort, and work into it. And I feel like it's definitely working.
Yeah, it's going well so far. I mean, we're seeing a lot of growth in the numbers that we have, and that's not, I guess, that surprising. I can't imagine what we're gonna get, like that first day after a Bills game in terms of the numbers and the people that are tuning in, and that goes beyond also just listening or watching live, because that's actually what I'm doing now too. Like my habits have changed where I would watch or I would listen on the app, and now I'm pulling up the YouTube feed. Like that's my go-to. I know there's other benefits too, like just little ones. Like Canada is back listening. I know they weren't able to listen on the app for a long time, and now you have YouTube. You could watch if you're listening in Southern Ontario and you're looking to stream. So that's helped too, I think, in a big way. I think we're getting these incremental improvements too to the studio. The lighting's been better recently, like the brand new mic flags and everything. So they're putting the effort into the streaming. Owen Parker does an amazing job at producing all of our stuff, and not just getting the show up and running and the graphics, but then cutting everything into shorts. Like I see a lot of that too. Yeah. Like on my Instagram, I'm seeing myself. I don't know how my algorithm is giving me myself, by the way. I guess because usually I'll click right off it. Like I don't need to watch myself. But it keeps showing up. So I think it's something that a lot of stations should be doing around the country. And I'm glad that we got it up and running, especially the timing that we did it right around the draft, right? Like Brandon Bean, that radio interview was the day after the draft, and we were up and running by then, still working some kinks out. But I'm really happy that we are up and running, and like we are very comfortable with the way everything works before the Bill season starts. I think it'll be really fun to have during the season. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I'm glad you mentioned Owen. He's doing a really good job. In fact, Owen's going to be on the show later this week, and I'm going to talk to him a little bit about some of the behind the scenes stuff with producing beyond, just some general sports talk that I'll have with him as well. Yeah, look, I like whether I'm watching it live or if I miss it live, that I could go. I mean, you could also do that on demand on the audio side too, but to be able to go on YouTube now more and more, like say if Sal Capaccio's got a 20-minute segment, or if Paul Hamilton's talking Sabres or something, you could go watch a specific part of the show too, a lot easier now. So really like that. And you're enjoying it personally, like the video side as well?
Yeah, I sometimes don't even notice that it's there. Like I'm just kind of, I got very used to it. We like to pull the chat up once in a while, which, that can be good and bad, but usually it's it gives you a little extra spice one way or the other. So yeah, I enjoy having it. I enjoy having it a lot. I'm glad that they've got it. And we'll see. Like the marketing side of it, I know they're growing that too. So hopefully that gets rolling too in the next little
I
bit.
thought
It's
it was
supposed
really
to.
cool to have it. I thought it was really cool to training camp too, to be on live and have
Oh
the
yeah,
video going every day. Now, are you
yeah.
generally, you're pretty much, you're at the studio most of the time, right?
Yeah, I'm always at the studio. Really, like training camp for me, like I don't love doing the show at home. And really, we try not to do the show at home unless we absolutely have to
Sure.
anyway. And I generally don't have that, situation. Like if I go out of town maybe, for a couple days and don't want to take off, I'll do the show remotely. If I'm going to visit my mom in Charlotte, maybe I'll do that. But no, otherwise it's just training camp that I'm not in the studio, which is always fun too, because you get to do the show outside, which
Sure.
is always great.
Talk a little bit about just getting used with Jeremy. And by the way, I want to get your reaction. I talked to Jeremy about this, the Brandon Bean call in after the draft, him going on one of his felt like a very premeditated, knew it was coming before he even got on the phone. He did. I'm talking about, not you guys. I'll take it back where you when that happened, because I've been around. I watched the first round of the draft with Jeremy. I was at the Resurgence draft party. Yeah. He wasn't complaining about not taking a receiver in the first round or any of that stuff. He was talking corner for a big chunk of the draft. Anyway, just what was your reaction kind of like in real time as that was going on, where Brandon Bean just felt like he wanted to get off, man. You guys were the punching bags for him on that day.
It was weird. I went from thinking at the outset that he was kidding, like, because it was just so stunning that he took that tone or approach right away. So at the first, I thought he was kidding. And then once I realized that, oh, wait, he's serious, it was almost confusion. Like, wait, he's saying he's mad because he's been listening to the show and we've been up because that morning we just hadn't spent that much time on wide receiver. So that was my confusion is he mad about something today? Is he mad about like the last 2 minutes right before we went to break? Because I mentioned when we were talking about receiver for 5 minutes at the end of our 25-minute segment with Sal Capaccio. And even within that, I mentioned like, last year, they signed Chase Claypool and Marquez Valdez-Scantling like after the draft, like a week later. So I still feel like they're going to do something. By the way, they did do something. They signed Elijah Moore a couple days later. Right. He was there that day. So I'm like, maybe that's it. Is he saying it was this day, but he's actually, talking about past shows? But even that season, like we hadn't spent. We of course talked some receiver. I mean, there's 3 months talking about the draft beforehand. But like the Friday of the draft or the Thursday of the draft, whatever day the draft was, we spent half the show on safety. Like, would they draft a safety in round one? Not about receiver. I think we had one guest on to talk about Luther Burden during the draft season. And again, like months and months of it. Last year, of course, we did all that. Like it was wide receiver train beginning to end. This year, I just felt like it was way, way less. And I didn't think it warranted that. And that's why I was totally confused in the moment to what he was really upset about.
Now, when I had Jeremy and Joe Marino on the show at Sunny Reds, Jeremy told me in confidence, and, to my credit, I didn't say anything, but he knew that Brandon B was going to be coming on the show to talk to you guys from Bill's camp. Yeah. And I believe that ended up happening. I don't remember if it was a Monday or Tuesday, but what I do remember, I don't remember what day of the week it is, but here's what I do remember. He was coming on, and I was like, ooh, let's see, this might get juicy, but here's the problem. News takes precedent, and there was actually news that mattered. I think that was when James Cook started the holding. Yeah. So that, obviously Brandon Bean, that was the topic that mattered. So he didn't really even get a chance to get into the wide receiver stuff that day.
It was only hours later, right? Like I think it was the night before or the afternoon before that the Cook news first started that he was going to hold in, and we knew we were having Bean on the next morning. So, right, like we knew everybody was tuning in to hear an update about James Cook. So it's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to spend 10 minutes with him going back and belaboring on the draft visit and talking about receiver? All right, like, are we really going to go back and forth about receiver for 10 minutes when everybody's just waiting to hear what is happening with James Cook? So that to me was obvious that we were having him on. Like that is where you are going to start. Like news takes precedent, especially when it was the first opportunity anybody had to talk to him about the Cook situation, which it was so weird. Like holding out in the middle of training camp is not something that you ever see around the league.
No, it was definitely
Very
caught
weird.
a lot of people by surprise because you expected it potentially to happen early on, and then it happens a week or so. But anyway,
Yeah.
that was, that was a scheduled appearance, and it just happened that
Mhm.
happened on that day. One more thing I wanted to ask you about why I got you on the show, and then we're going to dive into some Bills talk for sure. But
Mhm.
for people who are only Bills fans and not Sabres fans, they may not know this, but beyond being your job at WGR, you also are the host of Locked On Sabres.
Yep.
So you do, at least during the season anyway, pretty much a daily podcast. What I want you
Yeah.
to do is, and it's not, maybe it's not every day during the off season, especially this time of year. There's just
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
5 days a week to talk about stuff. But when the season is going, when you are in, everyday mode, kind of take us a little bit behind the scenes. What it's like, what's a day like for you now? Like say during hockey season as well, where
Yeah.
you're on the radio and then you're also recording, like I said, a hockey show every
Yeah.
day. Man, that makes for a pretty busy ass day and a lot of talking too.
Yeah, it can be a lot of talking. Yeah, off season not as much, which is better. It's only a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
During the off season where there's not much happening, but during the season, yeah, it's 5 days a week. So really, yeah, like I mean, my day's obviously very early, so I try not to get to a place where I'm crashing in the middle of the day because, right, like I get home, I'm try to eat something, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
like chill for a minute and then or a couple minutes, and then like, all right, I gotta what are we going to do today? Like normally there's a game the night before, or there was a practice that morning and like, oh, we got new lines today. Let's do that. Or Lindy gave an update on blank who's injured. And like that can occur very naturally. But generally I try not to do episodes right after games. I would like to, but it's tough when you wake up so early in the morning, especially in those games, the late games especially. So it depends, on whether I'll do it that night or the next day. Man, I'm praying though that I get to do this show when they're good someday. Like sometimes it can absolutely be a labor of love to talk about this team because not even that it's hard to create content about them.
Yeah.
That's not hard at all. It's just to sink into being mad all the time. I don't want to be mad all the time, but when you do a show about a team that's on the longest drought in the sport's history, what else is appropriate than being mad all the time? So, I try not to do that. Try to maybe, 2 of the 5 days a week, maybe fire and fury, and the other 3 be a little bit more measured. But, again, one of these days, I've been doing the show since 2019. Haven't been able to do a show yet about a playoff game, but I'm hoping that before long I'll be able to do that.
Well, maybe the blessing in disguise with doing Locked On Sabres is that if you ever wondered what it was like to cover the Buffalo Bills and be on the radio
Oh
every
yeah.
single day and do a
Yeah.
show every single day when they sucked, when they were never good,
Yeah.
you got a good glimpse at that.
I'll say this though. I bet that was a lot. Maybe not more fun. It's probably the same, part of like being mad all the time. But if like I was not doing shows, the first year I'm at WGR is the year they break the drought. So I wasn't doing shows during the drought. But I have to imagine the cycle of all right, the quarterback chase. I
Mhm.
think that can get you through the drought doing a show when it's all right, is it time to move on from Lossman? Is it time to move on to
Sure.
this guy? Do we want to draft this guy or this guy? Like that endless chase for a quarterback, I think probably helps someone in that position. Again, I've never done it. Versus the Sabres, where it's just like sometimes you spin round and round and round, and you feel like you have no idea what they're supposed to do.
All right, let's do this. We're going to take a real quick break. On the video side, we're literally going to be back in about like 3 seconds. And then we're going to dive into that ESPN feature story about the NFL rankings and where I think the Bills are ranked pretty low in a lot of categories. That almost makes you think that they consider the Bills, beyond Josh Allen, a pretty mid team. So we'll be right back. All right, back here with Joe DiBiase from WGR 550, also the host of Locked On Sabres. All right, so Mike Clay from ESPN, Joe, put out again, he went positionally, a very long and a thoughtful exercise, fun to kind of look at and evaluate a little bit. Positional rankings, 1 through 32, how every team stacks up around the league. And like I said before the break and earlier in the show, for me, it kind of makes the Bills feel almost like they're a mid team right now with the quarterback who's just, unworldly. He's quarterback or MVP of the league.
Yep.
And let's go through the positions here.
Yeah,
And we'll
definitely.
kind of go like that. If you're watching this on the video side, I'll have them up, and I'll do my best to follow along. And if you're listening on the audio side, we'll do our best to kind of describe a couple other things going on. And let's start with the quarterback, which, I mean, it's hard to argue. They got Josh Allen second behind only Lamar. There's not really a lot to discuss and debate here because it's Josh Allen and Lamar and Mahomes. And, and Burrow, those are the big four. We know that. There's nothing that's wrong in my estimation with Josh being second. I would have said the same thing if he was first or even third as well. So this feels pretty fine, right?
Yeah.
I got running backs up, by the way, not quarterbacks. So
I
we'll
personally have no issue with anybody in the world putting Allen one or putting Jackson one. Like, I think you are nitpicking so much when you are comparing those two. I think it depends on how you do it, right? Like, if you are going heavy on the regular season production and some of the efficiency numbers there, I think you could get to Lamar Jackson. If you put more weight into playoff performance, you're absolutely going to go with Josh Allen. I the other day I was talking to my brother about this, and he had the numbers off the top of my head. It's like 32 touchdowns, 4 picks for Josh in the playoffs, and 13 touchdowns, 7 picks for Lamar in the playoffs. So again, it just depends how you do it. The weird thing to me, though, is if you're going to weight the playoffs more, then Allen should be above Jackson, but then also Mahomes should be above Burrow. If you're going to do it the other way around, weight more in the regular season, shouldn't Burrow be above Patrick Mahomes? So, what's weird to me is that not only does he has Lamar over Allen, if you have Lamar over Allen, I feel like Mike Clay here should have Burrow over Mahomes. That's the weird part to me.
Good point. A quick question, too, and this is unrelated to the Bills exercise, but I'm interested in your opinion. So the first four, like I said, they're interchangeable, but I think pretty much everybody's top four are those guys. Definitely. Mike Clay's got Jalen Hurts fifth, so Philly fifth, and then Jaden Daniels sixth. Do you agree with that? Like, if I said, Joe, give me your top half dozen quarterbacks in the league right now, the first four would be the first four. Would that also be your fifth and your sixth as well?
I wouldn't get to Jalen Hurts there. I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, but I think he is right now in the best environment that I've seen for a quarterback maybe in my life. Like, how do you beat it? They've got arguably the best line in football. They've got arguably the best running back in football. And they've got a top 5 wide receiver core in football. Like, how do you top that? It's not to say he's not good. It's just he's got everything he needs, whereas not everybody, like, I would have Jaden Daniels above him right now. I know it's only 1 year, but I was so impressed by what he did. And I'd also make my brother Lou mad, who covers the Eagles, but I would have Justin Herbert above him too. Would there be anybody else I would? I'd have to probably really get into the weeds anybody else. He might be the next guy after that, but he would not be in my top 6. No, Hurts would be the one difference for me.
Fair enough. Okay, so now where it comes to the Buffalo Bills, like I said, this just feels right. And this, let's just put it this way. Spoiler alert, the quarterback position plays, as it should, an awful big role on where the Bills end up in terms of overall, because after this, it starts to get to where I think we could have a couple discussions. And before we talk about the running backs, I do want to say, for people who are watching this on the video side, and if you're leaving comments, I'm going to try to get to some of them as best I can, but I'm also trying to navigate like 11 different charts, and I want them to be up so people
there's a lot of charts here.
Yeah, there is. And by the way, I mean, this was an unplanned. I think I told you maybe 2 hours before. I said, you know what? Let's just do this live tonight instead of recording this. We're at almost 1,000 people right now who are checking in. So I appreciate everybody who's watching this on the live side. Anyway, all right, running backs here. The Buffalo Bills are 15th in the league. 32 teams. So they're middle of the pack, literally, when it comes to running backs. Detroit's first. We're not going to go through all of them, but I just want to let people know. Top 3, Detroit, Atlanta, Philly, Frisco 4. They got Buffalo at 15. And by the way, I promise you this, folks, I'm not being a homer. Joe's not going to be either. We're like, these are honest opinions. I feel like that's too low. I don't know how low it is, but I feel like that's a little bit too low. What are your thoughts when you see that?
Me too. I would put them a little bit higher. Like, not everybody, though. Like, again, like, this depends on how you're doing this. I like them more than Houston. I think Houston's running back core, I don't know how you put Houston 13th right now. Joe Mixon is injured and old, and then behind him, Nick Chubb is old. Like, it's just so old in Houston that I would definitely have them above there. I think you could argue having them above Arizona. I think I'd have them above Seattle. I don't know Seattle if they're at 10. But like on the other flip side, like I like the Jets running back trio better than I like the Bills trio.
Mhm.
So, I'd put a couple teams below them and maybe only one team above. So I think they should be in the low teens. I think 15th. That's a middle of the pack running back core. I think they're an above average running back core. I think between 9 and 12, 13, I think is more appropriate.
I'm with you there, man. I don't think it's egregious, but I do think that they have
Yeah.
them a little bit too lower. I look at it as James Cook at the lowest I think anyone could say is he's a top 15 running back. I don't think you can, with a straight face, say he's not even a top 15 running back. And then Ty Johnson, Josh Allen says it, and Josh Allen has some of the dumbest food takes you'll ever hear in your life. They're awful. But the one thing, he knows football, and I don't think he's lying when he says he considers Ty Johnson the best third down back in the league. Maybe he's not, but he's certainly up there. And then Ray Davis is your number 3, a guy who started one game last year and had 152 yards from scrimmage on Monday Night Football against the Jets. Yeah, I'm with you, man. They're an 8 to 13 at worst.
Yeah,
the other running back unit.
Very quickly, the other one I'm noticing here, Miami at number 8. I didn't even see them there. Where like Devin Achane was historically efficient in year 1. He stunk last year. Like everything went to the bottom. Maybe he bounces back. But Jalen Wright had one of the worst seasons a rookie running back as a third-round picks ever had. And then it's Ollie Gordon, who that guy is looking great in training camp, no doubt, but come on. I mean, 7th round undrafted free agent is the reason we're putting them 8th. I think the Bills should be above Miami for that too.
You just reminded me of something. I'm going to save it for the end of the show. If anybody who's watching this live sticks around, if they want to chime in, Joe and I made a pretty significant we're both in a media dynasty league, and you and I made a pretty significant trade over the last few days. We'll get to that. And I thought of that because I have Devon Achane on my team, and the dude's already hurt. All right, wide receiver here with the Buffalo Bills. Top 3, Cincinnati, Philly, Tampa, Rams 4, Minnesota 5. I'm not going to argue with any of that. Miami 6-2. Where's Buffalo here on the wide receiving unit? All right, so they're 22nd.
22nd.
You know what? I think that's all right with me. I don't think that they're that proven. I don't know. It feels right to me. What do you think?
It's not far off. I think it's actually funny. I've seen them lower on other, like Bill Barnwell did one maybe like a month ago, and I think he had them like 28th, 29th. There's really, the problem is there's nobody above him, above the Bills that I would want to leapfrog. Like the Giants are the team immediately above. And I'm just not putting the Bills over a team that has Malik Neighbors on it. There's no way I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So those teams all above them have better number 1 receivers by a lot. And listen, right now, the Bills' strength in the receiving core was the depth. It wasn't the top end. It was the depth. And right now, how does that look? Because Curtis Samuel's been hurt for much of camp, and Elijah Moore hasn't really popped off yet. I still like him as an idea, but we got to see that. So I think there's big questions about Coleman too. I wouldn't put them any higher. I wouldn't put them much lower. I think the only team I'm looking at below them that I'd really want to put higher is, I might say the Jets again, because I'm putting a lot of stock in Garrett Wilson as a number 1.
Yeah.
But even that one is really close, and I don't see anybody else that I'd want to put higher than the Bills. So maybe I'd put him like 23rd.
This could be a position that swings big time. Like, we could look back right now, Joe, and we could be like, man, the Bills are only 22nd receivers, because Keon Coleman could take that big step. Josh Palmer, I think, is very capable of having a career year. Who knows, man? Maybe either Moore or Samuel, one of those guys, ends up having a good year. And you know what Shakir could do already, but I think it's fair. I don't think 22, even though it's a low rank, I don't think it's I don't think it's unreasonable at all. All right, let's get to the tight ends here. The Bills are ranked 13th right now. So the top 4 is Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Vegas, and Kansas City at 4. Like I said, the Bills are 13th, so just ever so slightly above middle of the pack. I mean, you got a first-round pick there. Dawson Knox has done some things. You got a rookie 5th-rounder in the mix. That's your room. What are you thinking with this position? How does that feel to you?
Yeah, by the way, very quickly, I think Mike's got Arizona way too low. I think Trey McBride's like the best tight end in football, and they're down to number 8. 13, Kincaid's got to do it, right? Like, Kincaid's just got to do it. I mean, your 1-2 is, your 1-2 is as good as anybody else's 1-2, like your second best guy. But right now, again, like, is this fair? I think it's about fair. I think, again, you could almost maybe even argue them a tad lower because of who your top guy. I'm not putting Kincaid above let's Sam Laporta. I'm certainly not doing that. I'm not doing it above McBride or Kittle or any of those guys up top. I think you're seeing a tier break here. There's a top 8 in the league at tight end on this ranking. And then I see a group between Detroit and like Philadelphia, Green Bay, like between 9 and 15. And I think you could argue the Bills anywhere in that territory. But again, it just comes down to Kincaid's got to do it. I don't think they're deserving of being much higher because he had a bad year. He had a bad year. He had one of the least efficient seasons a tight end's had in a long time. I like Knox. I think Knox is a good all-around tight end that would be a starter on a lot of teams. But if for them to be deserving of being listed as a top 10 tight end team, Kincaid's got to have a big year.
I agree with you fully. This isn't potential. This is what they're doing or what we've seen.
Right now.
And they're there. All right, Joe. So a lot of these I've been like, all right, a little too high, a little too low. There's one position where I think it is egregious, and it's this one right here.
This one's
offensive line. The Bills are 11th, okay?
Yeah.
Top 3, Philly, Denver, Chicago, and then we'll say Minnesota, Tennessee. That's your top 5. The Bills are 11th. Respectfully to Mike Clay and ESPN, I think this is absolutely ludicrous. This is ridiculous to me that they're only 11th. What are we doing here? This is the one area, the one position where I just think he completely got it wrong. You want to talk about an underrated aspect of this football team? Look no further. This is terrible.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go in depth like most people wouldn't be on like Atlanta's offensive line or the Baltimore offensive line. But I know what I see very often from people that cover that position. Whether it's I just in comparison when I saw you sent me this, like how far down they were. First thing I did was wait 11th. Where did PFF have them ranked? PFF did their rankings like going into the year, and they had the Bills number 3. I looked at Brandon Thorne, who's a guy on Twitter that I trust a lot for offensive line stuff, and he's got them higher. He's got Spencer Brown as the 3rd best right tackle in football. So I don't know how they fall to 11 here. To me, so far, this is definitely the one that I would put them a lot higher. I'm with you. I mean, I don't know why I would distrust PFF on this or Brandon Thorne or any of these other people that are evaluating offensive lines and that the Bills are a top 5 offensive line.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I would put them 3rd and feel pretty comfortable about that. I think they have the best, arguably Philly maybe number 1, Bills number 1 or number 2, the best tackle duo in football, and that's the most important position. Those are the 2 most important positions of the line.
Look, I'm no offensive line expert either. Let me be really upfront about that. But Philly and Denver, look, they got great offensive lines, and you can make a case 1, 2. Okay, I'm not going to fight you on that. Yeah. But once you start getting into Chicago, who spent a bunch of money yet again, let's see it. Like you just said with Dalton Kincaid and the tight ends, I got to see it. I got to see it with Chicago. That offense was a train wreck last year, and now they got the 3rd best line in the league. What are we doing here? With the Bills, look, what more do you need? You got your Pro Bowl left tackle. You got a Pro Bowl caliber right tackle. The interior of the offensive line has been great. Osiris Torrance is coming into his own, and there's been continuity. That unit has missed 1 game collectively in 2 years. That was Spencer Brown last year in the Kansas City game, and Ryan Vandermark stepped up and he played reasonably fine in that game. The numbers are there. The continuity is there. Josh Allen, sure, he avoids a lot of sacks, but you know what? He doesn't get pressured all that much, and they run the ball pretty damn well. I feel like the offensive line has something to do with an offense that was literally by their, franchise standards historically good last year. Yeah. That's just crazy to me, dude.
I would give them bonus points, too, for the point you mentioned about continuity. And the fact that these guys never leave the field. Like, knock on wood. But, like, Spencer Brown he's the only lineman, I think, that's missed a game in the last 2 years. And it was only 1 game that Ryan Vandermark had to play. So, like, they stay healthy. They're on the field. They've worked together for multiple seasons. And you don't have all these new pieces coming in to see how it's going to work. Even last year, you had that. Like, Connor McGovern was moving to center. And we didn't know 100% how that was going to look. He hadn't done it since college or even high school before that. So that was a question then, but it's not a question now. I don't know what the question would be. David Edwards isn't an all-pro. Okay, sure, you got me there. But the rest of it is at least super solid. And I think maybe it comes down to what you think of Spencer Brown. Like his development in the last couple of years, he's gone from a tackle that was very inconsistent, in
Sure.
that first even 2 seasons to now. Like, one thing I've been saying all summer, just again from reading all the people that are in depth, like know it all on the line. My thought has been that Spencer Brown's going to be an all-pro at some point in his career. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but that dude is too big, too athletic, and too polished now for me to not start getting the accolades more and more.
PJ Fan in the live chat said, this is a fair rank, and Allen escapes so many pressures and sacks. Allen covers up for the entire offensive line. Look, buddy, respectfully, I'm going to say that I think you're crazy.
That's not a bad...
Josh Allen does escape a lot of shit. He's not wrong, but that is really shortchanging this offensive line. It really is.
But those two things can be true at the same time also. Like,
sure.
Like last year, sure, Allen is statistically, he is the best quarterback at escaping pressure in NFL history. But if you look at certain pressure rates about how often he is pressured per drop back, like I'm looking right now real quick, like he's near the bottom of the league for how much he throws the ball and how much he's pressured. Like, the Bills line does fine. Sure, Allen is number one at avoiding pressure. The line might not be number one at, fewest pressures allowed, but they're near the top. Like, I think you shouldn't use that as a weapon against the offensive line and taking credit away from them.
Let's switch sides here. I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. An interior defensive line with the Buffalo Bills. Let's see here. Middle of the pack again. Yet another middle of the pack ranking. They are 15th. Top 5, I'll read off real quick. Seattle, Arizona, Indianapolis. Pretty high there. Tennessee, Minnesota Vikings. They got Buffalo at 15 right now.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean...
So
reasonable, I guess.
This is one where I think you could even argue they could be a little bit lower. I think they're relying on a lot of youth this season for that position, and I like the youth. Deion Walker. I said it this morning on WGR that I can't remember the last time I felt this highly about a 4th round pick, a day 3 pick coming into a rookie season. It was the talent level. It was that he was supposed to go 1st or 2nd round. He looks healthy. He was dominant the other night. He's the body type at the position that they need. So again, but we'll see. Like, I know, I'm going to check myself there. He's a 4th round rookie. You can't assume he's going to be an impact player. And Sanders has looked good too. I've never been the biggest Ed Oliver guy. So maybe that's why I would be a little bit lower. Like, he's not a bad player. And I don't want to be infected just by where he was drafted because he was a top 10 pick and he hasn't lived up to that. But listen, like, he's got a good contract. He plays all the time. He's out there for the important downs. He has played every playoff game for the Bills that Josh Allen has. 2019 Houston and on. He was in that game. And can you tell me a single moment he's had in a playoff game? Because I can't. And like, the guys at the top of the depth chart are the reason that I think you could argue they could be a tad lower. I like the guys actually at the bottom of the depth chart at that position.
Well, you're preaching to the choir with the Ed Oliver stuff. I mean, I've had in the history of this podcast, some of my biggest tirades have been in Bills elimination losses, more specifically the Cincy loss and the Buffalo or the Kansas City loss in Buffalo 2 years ago. Yeah. What I will say, in fairness and objectivity, I thought Ed Oliver played much, much better this year in the AFC Championship game in Kansas City. But yeah, man, he's a good player. You said it. At times, he's a very good player. Yeah. They're middle of the pack. I agree with this. Quick little side question, though, because we're talking defensive tackles. Got me thinking about a point. Let me know if you think this is a reasonable take.
Okay.
For me, this whole summer, this whole preseason, my biggest take would be how Matt Milano looks. That's my most important take. My second one might be, at least with the preseason here, Tyrell Shavers has been a great story. Cole Bishop had a nice bounce back game at Tampa, and I think he really needed that. Mm-hmm. I think Deion Walker has been the story of the Buffalo Bills in the preseason. I went from thinking he's a guy who might be a kind of red shirt his first season in the league, with the back and all that, to thinking this dude might have an impact on football games in week 1 of this season, less than 2 weeks from now.
That's where I'm at too. I mean, I think the only thing with him that I'm wondering, because I think he's a player that should be able to play for them right away, and I think he's going to have the opportunity to. The only thing I wonder about him is there a misunderstanding about what type of player he is? Because I think what you saw in college from him You could look at the height and the weight and what the Bills needed in a defensive tackle and go, oh, this is the giant run plugger that's going to eat up blocks that they needed. 6'7", 331 pounds. Listening to Joe Marino evaluate film on Deion Walker or others, it sounds to me more like that was his weakness, that he uses his hands a lot and he is a good rusher from the inside. Kentucky even lined him up on the edge at times. He almost, to me, sounds like Jordan Phillips in a way. I mean, I would hope that the ceiling is higher for Deion Walker. Jordan Phillips only really achieved that ceiling, I would say, 1 year of his career, and he's been more of a spare part in all of these other seasons. But that ability to be the big guy in the middle at 330 pounds, I mean, it's around the same size as Jordan Phillips, but also be someone that's going to get after the quarterback. And that's what I'm most excited about Walker is this isn't Star Lotulelei, who's going to come in there and he's going to put up zeros on the stat sheet, but you're going to hear about at the end how important he was because he ate up 2 guards at the same time. No, this is a guy that should hopefully do that, and then, he's going to have a sack and a half at the end of a big, important game.
Yeah, 100%, man. All right, so defensive tackle, like I said, they're at 15. Then we get to the edge, and quite literally middle of the pack again. Yeah. The Bills are at 16 right now. Top 5, Pittsburgh, New York Giants, Minnesota, Houston, and Vegas. Man, you would think Vegas would be better with the way they're ranked high on some of these positions. But anyway, the Bills, dead smack in the middle of the pack at 16. I personally feel this might be a little bit lower, but not that much lower, and I'm not mad about it either. I don't think it's terrible.
Yeah, it just comes down to Bosa is got injury problems, and you don't fully know how much you can rely upon him. I know the Bills have a plan for him that they won't, overplay him early on. I think Greg Rousseau is a really good defensive end, and then behind that, I have questions. Like AJ Epinesa to me is just kind of a guy, and Landon Jackson has maybe had the quietest camp of any of these rookies. I mean, I've asked Sal about him, and when I was at camp, I'd look for him and in these preseason games, and just you don't hear a peep. In fact, the only thing I saw written about him from this past Saturday's game against the Bucs was from John Ledyard, who covers the Buccaneers, glowing about how great the Tampa undrafted offensive tackle looked because he shut down Landon Jackson. And part of it is he's not my favorite type of edge rusher, and for what I thought they needed, because he's a lengthy, stiff, like hold the edge type of edge rusher. Almost feels like kind of like AJ Epinesa in some ways. And what I've been wanting to see the Bills go after in that position in the last few years is go get that speed bend edge rusher. Your Jerry Hughes, Von Miller type. And other than Jerry Hughes and Von Miller, they really haven't even taken flyers on guys like that. Maybe you could argue that Javon Solomon is closer to that, and I like him as an idea. But I guess I'm not super high on Jackson. I think Bosa is the key here. If Bosa can be healthy all year long, then they should be better than 16th. But it's tough to know that right now.
This could be a position I would liken it to wide receiver where it could really swing. Like right now, I feel like it's right. I feel like this is they're capable of being certainly a top 10 unit here. I like Michael Hoyt when he gets back. I think he's going to do some good things. And
thank you. Yeah.
Somebody in the live chat, which by the way, almost up at 1,300. Thank you so much. Paul Walker Jr. said Gru's going to have 16 sacks. I'm like, come on, dude. He's not going to have 16.
I don't think he'll get sacks. I'm glad you mentioned Hoyt though, because he's looked awesome in the preseason, and like behind Bosa and Rousseau, like he's the next name that I think is worth mentioning here as somebody that you're going to want on the field in those biggest plays in the playoffs.
Thad Brown, Rochester Bills reporter, had such a good take during the preseason, or not the preseason, during training camp. And he just pointed out how he looked unblockable against second teamers, though. He's played a lot against second teamers, whether it's been at camp or the preseason. Like, let's see when there's a quality of a Spencer Brown or a Deion Dawkins in front of him. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons. And to Paul Walker's point, I wasn't laughing at, 16 sacks. I mean, it's not impossible for Greg Rousseau, but he's never had 10. I would say 10, 11 sacks would be an awesome season for Greg Rousseau. The way this team rotates with the defensive line, I would sign up for that in a second. All right, so there's edge rusher. I said offensive line was the one that I found completely egregious.
Yeah.
If there's one that's a runner-up, it might be this one too.
Yeah.
Top 5 linebackers, they have Washington, Philly, Jacksonville, Denver, and Detroit. The Buffalo Bills are 14th. That's too low, man. That is
Yeah.
too low. Now, health matters, but I don't think there's 13 tandems in the league that are better than Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard.
No, I personally don't either. I think there's a couple that should be above them, or the Bills should be above. A lot of these teams above them have like one really good linebacker and then just kind of a guy, whereas the Bills have the capability of having two awesome, super talented linebackers at the same time. You need Milano to stay healthy, and that's the if. But like Pittsburgh above them, Patrick Queen. I like Patrick Queen, but between him and Peyton Wilson, it's not Roquan Smith standing next to Patrick Queen. Now, Baltimore, kind of the same thing. Like, I think Roquan Smith is awesome. I think he is maybe better than both Bills linebackers at this point in time, but not the guy next to him. Like, to me, the combo is what should have the Bills higher. And maybe this is just a doubt in Milano staying healthy and performing, but I think you should have more confidence given what we saw from him at the end of last season. It looked bad right out of the gates. Like that Ram game that he came back for, like Kyron Williams putting him in a pretzel right off the gate. Like he did not look ready in that game, or he looked like a player who hadn't played in a year, right? And that's fair. By the end of the year, he looked pretty close to Matt Milano. I wouldn't say he was all the way back to first team all pro level linebacker Matt Milano, but he looked like a guy that's still got that in there and he was on his way back to it. So between him and Bernard, it's just the health. Like those guys, I think I can count on one hand how many games they've actually played together in 2 years.
Oh, I know.
If they can do that, I think their upside is higher than at least 5-6 of those teams above them. I might stop at about San Francisco. I think they have the best linebacker in football. And, no matter who their other guy is, I think I would give them a lot of credit there. Maybe Miami, you could put them above San Francisco, New Orleans. I think you could argue 5-6 teams they could be above.
Yeah. By the way, I usually don't pay attention to coach speak it, just brush it off. But when Bobby Babbage said that arguably Matt Milano was the best player on either side of the ball this summer, that kind of resonated with me because based on what I saw, and I know you saw your share as well, he certainly looked the part again. Interesting side note, number 32, the Los Angeles Rams, dead last. So if you're out there and you're a Sean Dolek fan and you're wondering, why didn't he sign with the Bills? Well, guess what?
He's got
Sean Dolek is not only is he making the Rams roster, he's going to have an opportunity to play on this team. So there's your answer, folks. Awesome. I promise you that Sean Dolek could have signed with the Bills had he wanted to. He strategically looked for the best situation, and it's the Rams. Dead last in the league. All right, so that's linebacker. We agree it's too low. Cornerback, the Buffalo Bills. All right, so I'll read off the top 5 again. Baltimore, who, by the way, Baltimore's in the top 5 and a lot of shit on this list. Baltimore, Houston, the New York Jets, Philly, Pittsburgh, top 5. That Jalen Ramsey factor, a little overrated. Anyway,
yeah.
Buffalo is 7th. Now, look, Benford is a top 10 corner, I believe, in this league.
Yeah.
Teron Johnson is one of the premier slot defenders in this league as well. Little reckless the way he plays and, kind of prone to injuries at this point of his career. But anyway, those two guys are great.
Yeah.
But when you got a CB2 question like the Bills do and depth issues up crazy behind them right now, at least for now, I thought 7 was too high, actually, for the Bills. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I think when I first saw it, I thought it was too high, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's somewhat defendable because the Bills do have it's the combo of Benford and Taron Johnson for me. Like those two are as good of a duo for your number one boundary corner and your number one nickel corner as you're gonna find. I just think it's such a major question right now about who that number 2 boundary corner is that I think, a couple spots lower maybe would be fair. And part of it for me is I hope I'm wrong, but doubt in what Tre'Davious White is going to look like. And that's before he even got injured here.
Yeah.
If Max Hairston can grab the reins of that job and be a solid corner by the end of this season, Bills could have a top 5 corner trio in the league. But if Trey White's got to play, I'm nervous about that because he just hasn't looked like Trey White in years. And I know last year we want to throw it out because he was in LA, who played a very different system, and I think that's a reasonable defense. He then went to Baltimore, not as different a system, still a little bit, and he looked better, but he still didn't look like a guy that should be commanding to be a starting corner in the league. He looked like a guy you could get away with being out there on the field. And that's kind of how I feel about him, is you can get away with him being out there. The Bills often get away with a replacement level number 2 corner. And I think Trey White can be that. But the only way they're a top 5 group or even 6 or 7, I think, is if Hairston really delivers on the draft pick.
I agree. There was a time, I trust me when I tell you, I'm not happy he got hurt. That shit sucked. But I was like, there's a silver lining to this. Doesn't have to rush into the season. I feel pretty good about Trey based on what I saw at camp. But that Giants game scared me a little bit. And now, obviously, the injury, we still don't know what it is. It feels to me, and I don't want to speculate on a podcast where by tomorrow people might have more information, but this could be a multiple week situation. CB2 is going to be a problem. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out. We'll get to a few other things here, but I do think 7 is a little bit too high. All right, safety here, the last position on the team.
Yeah.
Tough one. Here we go, folks.
Tough one.
Read the top 5.
It's not like it used to be with Poyer and Hyde, huh?
Nope. So the top 5 is Detroit, Green Bay, Arizona, Houston, and there they are again, those Baltimore Ravens. Number 30. The Buffalo Bills. There's only 2 teams in the league behind them. Ironically, 2 other good teams, Kansas City and Washington, are 31 and 32 respectively here. But yeah, look, 32 teams, and they got the Bills 30th at safety, and I really, at this point, can't argue that.
Yeah, I don't think you can either. I mean, you just haven't seen anything from Cole Bishop that makes you confident that there's an upgrade coming there. I hope fingers are crossed, there's an upgrade coming, because he's a way better athlete than Damar Hamlin is. But is he going to be making mistakes every other game that result in big, long touchdowns over their heads? Because if that's the case, he's not going to be out there very long to even capitalize on that advanced athleticism. And honestly, I've always wondered how good Taylor Rapp really is. He's never graded well. His coverage numbers never really look that strong. He's an elite tackler. I think that we know about him. Like, the dude does not miss tackles. Like, his missed tackle rate, I think, was number 1 in the NFL last year among safeties. So he's got that going for him. But his coverage skills, I think, really leave a lot to be desired. I think he's just a guy that we might hold up to a little bit of a higher standard because he's better than the guy next to him. Mm-hmm. And that's been the case for, or at least it was the case last year. It's not a good sign when you might need Damar Hamlin back there. And Hamlin, to me, like, he deserves credit for being buttoned up upstairs mentally to even be in a position to where it comes down to, we got to put him in because he's the guy we trust. And they do. You see him at practice, and he's talking to the coaches all the time, and he's coaching up the young guys, and he's playing special teams. Like, I think Damar Hamlin should be on this football team. But the fact that he's even in the conversation to start at safety again is why they deserve to be in the bottom 3 at safety.
You brought up Taylor Rapp, and I agree with everything you said. He also makes some big plays too. But the problem with Taylor Rapp is, look, the last 2 years the Bills have been eliminated in the playoffs. He hasn't played. He's been out both games. He's been hurt plenty and at inopportune times, it seems. Not to mention the whole friendly fire thing too, as well.
He's always doing that.
He's a solid safety. Like, if this was strong safeties only, I'd be like, middle of the pack would be fine for him. There's certainly better safeties, but there's definitely worse as well. But yeah, Cole Bishop's got to show us a lot. I don't want to talk about Damar Hamlin having to be a starter again. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. Jordan Hancock, I still think that's a little down the road. I'm very excited about him from what I've seen, but you just get a strong sense. Sean don't want to play him this early in his career. You could feel that in your bones. At least I can anyway.
This could be the trade deadline position.
Sure.
Safety.
Overall. All right, so listen. So overall here, folks, despite the fact we've been talking a lot about the Bills being in the middle of the pack or near the bottom in some categories, their top 5 overall is, well, Baltimore's 1, Philly's 2, KC's 4, Detroit's 5. The Buffalo Bills are 3rd. But yet, you look at the rankings, if you look at it positionally, quarterback is 2nd. Outside of that, they only got one position where they're even ranked in the top 10, and that's at corner, which is 7th. which I just said, I actually think that might be a little bit too high for the Bills. They're in the middle of the pack in a lot of categories, and they're in the 20s at receiver, and they're 30th at safety, but yet they're the third team in the league. That just tells you the importance of Josh Allen. Now, you could say the same thing to an extent about Mahomes and about Lamar, but man, even if you stripped away Lamar, Baltimore felt like they were in the top 5 in like 5 or 6 different positions.
Yeah.
Not so much the Bills. So it makes you wonder, do outsiders at least consider this a middling football team after the quarterback?
I think that is pretty much the case. I mean, I think you do see a key difference between them and the Ravens on lists like this, or when the NFL Top 100 list comes out, or all these accolades. Like, I don't think the Bills get a lot of respect in those areas. I also don't even know that they deserve much more than they get.
Yeah.
The depth of the team is the biggest question. Like, how much are you supposed to count? Hey, all these positions, they've got trustworthy guys right behind them. Most of those positions. Because I do think the depth of the team overall does help prop them up a little bit, but not to the degree where, like, I would agree with that list that the Ravens have a better overall roster than the Bills do. And I would agree.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think they're the best team on paper in the NFL.
And I would agree with the Eagles have a better overall roster
Me too.
than the Bills. There's nobody else that I don't think it's at least debatable with. And that list had the Bills as number 3. So, like, on the overall. So they weren't bottom 10, bottom 5 and everything. You know, maybe that's reserved for Cincinnati on a list like this. If you told me they're a list like this is kind of middle of the pack or slightly above average in most categories, I feel like that's about fair. Hey, listen, like, it's not always the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's part of the reason Josh Allen won the MVP last year, is the people who voted for that award were thinking about that fact that Baltimore had 9 Pro Bowlers around this guy, and Josh had 1, 2.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. They have a lot of good players, but not a lot of great players. And I think that is part of the reason why Allen will get a little bit more credit. Not the only reason, but one of the reasons Allen will get a little more credit in some of these situations than Lamar will. Saying that as knowing that Lamar was higher than him on this list, though.
Let me bring up a live comment here. So, Pat, if the roster is mid, should Brandon Beane still be GM? Don't forget he has the salary cap maxed out there, too. Well, look, he's done more good than bad. I do think, you know what? I mean, I don't want to get into a long detail. We're nearing the end of the finish line here. But I think there's a lot of pressure on Brandon Beane this year. I don't think his job is in jeopardy whatsoever. Ditto for Sean McDermott. Those guys, short of them going 3-14 this year with a healthy Josh Allen, there is short of Josh Allen going to Terry and saying, get rid of these dudes. It's not going to happen. Not based on one bad year. So I don't think he's in trouble, but is he and should he be feeling an awful lot of pressure right now?
Yeah, not unless Josh did, or if there was a split between McDermott and Beane, which I don't think there is at the moment. So, I mean, there should be some. I mean, the draft history recently doesn't look that strong. Like, it looks okay, but last year, like right now, they had, what is it? They had 10 draft picks last year. How many do you know are going to make an impact this season? Like, right now, the answer is 1 that you know it about. Like, Coleman is going to be out there enough where it'd be stunning if he didn't.
Sure.
Whereas Cole Bishop, like, he's going to start the year. He doesn't have to finish the year. Dwayne Carter, we don't even know if he'll be on the roster by the end of the week. Ray Davis is a backup, and he'll make a couple plays, but he's a backup, and nobody else on that list right now is somebody that you know will be on the field or even on the roster. The year prior, Kincaid hasn't worked out. You got Osiris Torrance there. So that's good, but that's 2 draft classes that I've got like 1 surefire impact player, maybe 2. Probably 2. I should include Coleman there. Out of 16 draft picks. Like, the recent draft history, I think this class could go a long way. If the Deion Walker pick hits and Jordan Hancock's able to help them out and TJ Sanders looks good, I think this draft class could help him in a big way. But yeah, I think if you start stacking draft class after draft class after draft class where you're not getting a lot of important players and you got to start reaching into the bargain bin and getting undrafted guys that McDermott's got to develop, and then you got to go over here and bring Jordan Phillips back for the 9th time. Like, that's when I would think the pressure could start to turn up a little bit more.
Quick little bit of news, too, to come down the chute on Monday regarding Jordan Phillips. Originally, it was reported
Yeah.
he was being signed to the active roster. Technically, that was right, but what was wrong is that it's the 90-man roster, not the 53-man that'll be coming on Tuesday. So he's going to get cut on Tuesday, and then he's going to get re-signed. He won't go through
Yeah.
waivers. So he's going to end up on the practice squad. Because that put a lot of people, I don't know about you, I'm sure you, it certainly had my mind racing. I'm like, what's going on here? Because if he's on the active roster, that means either DeQuan Jones or Dwayne Carter's not. One of them two are going to be on the move somewhere or cut. It's too early. Is it too early to give up on Dwayne Carter this quick? I mean, also look at it from this perspective, Joe. If they cut Dwayne Carter on Tuesday, and I don't think they're going to, but if they do, don't you feel like if you're Brandon Beane, doesn't that big, that bruises your ego a little bit, doesn't it? Third round pick, and he doesn't even make it to year 2, and you're cutting him. I don't think that happens for that reason alone.
Yeah, he's the guy they drafted with the Worthy trade, too. The guy that they moved up to get in the 3rd round. I don't know if that'll be mentioned a lot if he gets cut, but it could get brought up. I think it's probably too early. I wonder if they'll agree. They have not moved on from a day 2 pick this early since Bean's been the GM. And even I was looking earlier at this, like, I can't even remember. Like, I was back into 2008, 2007. I'm like, I don't remember what they did with these guys. Like, the closest was Boogie Basham. But Boogie Basham, they didn't cut. They traded. I mean, it was for almost nothing. It was a 6th round pick. And that was after 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That wasn't after 1. That was after 2. So giving up on a 3rd round pick after 1 year, like, it doesn't really have much precedent with this team, let alone this GM.
Mike White got cut by the Bills on Monday, so Mitch Trubisky, I mean, no surprise there. He's going to be the 2. By the way, Kenny Pickett just got traded while we were recording this.
5th round pick.
He's going to the Raiders for a 5th.
Wow,
5th. The Raiders gave up a 5th for him. That feels like a pretty high pick. I was wondering if Mike White might get traded to them. Obviously not. And he's probably not going to the Raiders anymore either. Amari Cooper signs with the Raiders. Yo, that's a big baller move right there, man. You say, you know what? No OTAs, no mini camp, no training camp, no preseason. Oh, we're within 2 weeks. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to sign. I'll sign with the Raiders. I'll sign with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Good work if you can get it.
Jordan Phillips might have done that too. Like, I just don't want to do all the work at camp. I'm good. I'll just show up in September and be fine.
Let me ask you one last question here, because I don't want to get into projected cuts, because a lot of people will be listening to this on Tuesday morning, maybe early afternoon. And by that time, we could be right or wrong. So let's not speculate here. Instead, let's turn our attention to Hard Knocks, which will be on Tuesday night, the second last episode. What have you thought so far of Hard Knocks? I'll ask you that. And also, what are your expectations going into this maybe significant episode? I don't know if what they're gonna show, but what are your expectations?
I wonder if we see anything in terms of cut down day, because let's think about this. They have 2 more episodes to go through. So if they were to put a lot of the cuts into this week, what would next week be about? Like, I tend to think this week probably is more about the 3rd preseason game, the last 2 preseason games, and then next week is all about cut down day. But I guess I don't really know. I thought last week was the best episode.
For sure.
I think I wonder about the future of Hard Knocks, because this was kind of the case last year with Chicago. I lost it and didn't keep watching it after the first couple episodes. It's turned more and more into a show for that team's fans more than the whole football world. And I think when Hard Knocks started, it was about, this is for everybody, and they're going to get like the good stuff. And now that it's more watered down, and like McDermott doesn't let cameras in his office, he has that right to not have them in there, but you're going to lose interesting things that are going to draw non-Bills fans. So for Bills fans, I think it works. I do wonder about the future of the show though, because I feel like they cannot go on forever. With just like next year, I would never watch next year's edition with another team, knowing like what the show has kind of become. It would have to be my own team.
If this was Hard Knocks with the Arizona Cardinals, I would have maybe watched the first half of episode 1 and be like, yeah, no, this is not interesting. I think that's a fair take. It's fun for Bills fans. The access is cool.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think this last episode, episode 3, was easily the best. We learned about a couple other players, and it was a little more, they brought you inside a little bit anyway. But the 2 things that have really bothered me, the whole James Cook thing, when he was holding in and when Sean McDermott thought he was going to practice that last day of camp, and he found a half hour later he's not out there. That was a story. And Sean wanting Cook to play a little bit on Saturday against the Giants, and he didn't. That was a story. And they didn't even mention that. So that shit bothered me. And also, don't tell Sean McDermott the preseason don't mean shit. Because you could tell how he was boiling after that Bears game. But yet they didn't really show anything right after that as well. Right. So I don't know, man. Whatever. We're gonna skip the last thing that I'm gonna start this segment. It's called One Must Go. You know what? I lied. We're not gonna skip this. Even though Joe, admittedly, is not much of a Saturday Night Live guy, and some of these are much lower. But here's what we're doing, Joe. Every day on this show, no, I'm starting it just this week. I started yesterday.
Okay.
I'm doing a thing called One Must Go. And I'm trying to list 4 things that are kind of feel equal in value. And your job is just to pick one and delete one from existence out of the 4. Now, yesterday on the show with Joe from Queens, we did TV dramas. And it was Game of Thrones, The Wire, Sopranos, Breaking Bad. Yeah. Around 400 or so votes. Nice little sample size. But overwhelmingly, it was Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was the one that had to go. Breaking Bad had the least amount of votes. So people were holding on to that one
Breaking Bad.
The most. Today's show, I'm going to be doing this at the end of every episode. And then I'm going to put a poll on Twitter the next day. So keep checking back for the next one. But anyway, this is going to be classic Saturday Night Live cast members, okay? We got to eliminate one. And again, you know these people, even if you don't necessarily follow their careers. Yep. But for everybody who's watching or listening, I'd love to hear your takes. Leave a comment on YouTube or tweet at me, whatever. All right? Eddie Murphy, John Belushi, Will Ferrell, Dana Carvey. One's got to go out of those 4. You don't need to be an expert. It's got to be one.
No. Man, this is SNL. Like, do I want to count what they did after the fact?
No, it's just SNL. SNL characters, like from what you know, and again, Eddie Murphy and especially John Belushi, probably before.
I'm definitely not getting rid of John Belushi. I don't think. I think I would probably get rid of Dana Carvey. Would be the one I would get rid of. I love the other 3, and that's someone I'm not as familiar with, so that might be just me measuring my familiarity level with each person. So
you know what? I'm thinking about it as well. And my point is this: I'll say it on the show, but like on Twitter, I'm not going to try to guide the audience into voting when I put up the polls the next day. But I think I would go with Dana Carvey too. It's not an easy choice, and that's the whole purpose of this exercise. There's supposed to be hard choices. Like when I just did those 4 TV shows yesterday, I think ultimately I would have cut Game of Thrones as well, but it would have been an easy choice for me. Anyway, this one I think I would go with Dana Carvey as well. And going by the live chat, it kind of seems like that would be the overall sentiment as well. I want to throw up a quick comment, because I really appreciate when people say stuff like this. Allentown said, "Hey, Pat, just want to tell you your pod is killing it. Love how you switch up the guests every week and get different feel for every podcast. Really enjoy it." Thank you, man. I do. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate my man, Joe, my cousin, very, very much. Make sure you follow him if you're not already on Twitter at Sneaky Joe Sports. Of course, you can listen to him every morning on the air alongside Jeremy White, or if you can't listen, you can watch.
Yes, you can.
On the old YouTube. And again, if you're a Sabres fan, Locked On Sabres as well. This was a good time, man. I really appreciate you, Joe.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun. We'll have to get some wings soon too.
Definitely. All right, folks. Thank you again for watching and for listening. I'll be back. Brand new show. We'll talk about some Bills cuts tomorrow.